All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Allison Eckhart. I'm the Deputy Director of Communications for the Office of Science. Welcome to this webinar on the Funding for Accelerated Inclusive Research, FOA. Before we begin, I have a few logistics to go over. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted next week, and we'll put the link for where that recording will be in the chat. There are closed captioning available. If you hit the CC button at the bottom of your screen, you should see them. And then after the presentation, there will be a Q&A section. So if you want to drop your questions in the Q&A box, also at the bottom of your screen, we'll get to those questions as we can. And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Natalia Moser with the Office of Deputy Director for Science Programs. Natalia?
Thanks, Allison, and welcome everyone to our webinar today. The focus of today's webinar is our Funding for Accelerated Inclusive Research, or FAIR, funding opportunity announcement. As shown here, the slides that we're presenting today are already posted online, so you can go grab them at your leisure. The main website for FAIR is shown here, science.osd.gov/initiatives/FAIR. And when you land on that homepage, there's a link for funding opportunities. And in here, you'll see a bunch of information that I will reference during today's presentation. The funding opportunity itself is the link at the top, the PDF file, and then the slides are down here kind of in the details. So feel free to take a look at those or download them now if you'd like to take some notes as we go along. So the FAIR funding opportunity was issued last month on December 15th. Some of the key deadlines are on this title slide. So just to note now, the submission for pre-applications is Tuesday, February 7th. We plan to have responses back to the applicants on their pre-applications by Tuesday, March 7th. And then the final deadline for applications is Friday, April 11th. And again, just referenced here for your information is the website for FAIR and then the direct link to the funding opportunity itself, the PDF. So this funding opportunity is issued by the Office of Science. If you are not familiar with the Office of Science, we are the basic research arm of the Department of Energy. Our mission is to deliver the scientific discoveries and major tools to transform our understanding of nature and advance the energy, economic, and national security of the United States. We have two pillars of our programs. One is the research part of our portfolio, termed the Advancing the Frontiers of Science. We are the largest federal supporter of basic research in the physical sciences, supporting nearly 29,000 scientific staff, 300 universities, and all 17 of the Department of Energy National Laboratories. We also have tools, scientific user facilities. There's 28 of them. 34,000 users per year access those. Some examples are provided here. And then our construction projects to support the next generation of those facilities. So all this is an introduction for the FAIR opportunity itself, which focuses on supporting basic research at institutions historically underrepresented in science. The main goals of FAIR are to build research capacity, infrastructure, and expertise at these institutions through mutually beneficial relationships between the applicants at underrepresented institutions and either DOE National Laboratories, Office of Science user facilities, or R1 minority serving institutions. That's based on the Carnegie classification. FAIR is intended to be complementary to our RENEW initiative, which is reaching a new energy sciences workforce. RENEW focuses on traineeships for students and workforce development, whereas FAIR is focused on building research capacity, infrastructure, and expertise. So this is on research programs for principal investigators at historically underrepresented institutions. The FAIR funding opportunity will support awards for a single institution and a research partner. So equipment or infrastructure investments are allowable costs, and there is actually a detailed list of allowable costs in the funding opportunity announcement, so I encourage you to look at that. The intent is for the majority of funds to go to the lead institution, and a portion will fund the partnering institution. I'll provide some more information on that shortly. Keep referencing back to our main website for FAIR for further information. So the scope of the funding opportunity in terms of what research is covered is the entire Office of Science portfolio. So I've listed here the 8 programs for the Office of Science. And in the slide deck that's posted online, there is a slide in the backup materials on each of these programs. So if you're not familiar with our research programs, I encourage you to look through that. I also want to reference, we had an informational webinar on December 15th, and you can find the link to that on our science.ofsdu.gov homepage. And at that webinar, we actually had representatives from each of the programs provide a brief overview of their program. So you can look at the slides as well as the recording from that webinar there. For looking specifically at this funding opportunity announcement, there are specific eligibility and teaming requirements. So all applications must be submitted on behalf of a lead institution and a single partnering team member proposed as a subrecipient. The lead institution must be a non-R1 minority serving institution, that's again based on the Carnegie classification, or an emerging research institution. The emerging research institution was defined in the CHIPS and Science Act as an institution of higher education that has an established undergraduate or graduate program with less than $50 million in federal research expenditures on an annual basis. The lead institution should show clear scientific leadership. So this is for the non-R1 MSI. There should be clear scientific leadership for that lead institution. And the lead must partner with a team member in one of the following categories. So the DOE National Laboratory, an Office of Science scientific user facility, or an R1 minority serving institution. And the partner, so these 3 here are the partners. The partner is limited to between 15 and 25% of the total funding of the award. We have a number of resources that are posted that I just showed on that first page on the FAIR website. So if you're not familiar with the Office of Science programs, we have points of contacts at all 17 DOE National Laboratories and all 28 Office of Science user facilities. So if you're looking to find a partner, I encourage you to take a look there. If you're not sure if you are classified as an MSI or emerging research institution or what the Carnegie classification is for your institution, we have an Excel file posted at this link that specifies all those designations for the institutions. If you have general questions about budgets, eligibility, or similar topics, this sc.fair@science.doe.gov website is a good resource for you. But if you have questions regarding specific program areas or technical questions, we encourage you to reach out to the contacts who are listed within the funding opportunity announcement. There are some limitations that we also want to highlight today. The first is that an individual PI, an individual investigator, is limited to 1 pre-application and 1 application. Looking at the institution specifically, any individual institution is limited to 3 applications or pre-applications or applications for each program. So for example, the Advanced Scientific Computer Research Program, and any individual institution can submit 3 pre-applications to OSCAR, 3 to BES, etc. The PIs must be in a permanent position at the applicant institution. Term limited appointments are not eligible. And if you're in a part-time permanent position, that is considered to be eligible. Individuals in a joint appointment are eligible if the work will be performed at an eligible applicant institution. This funding opportunity is announced for a total of $35 million. The awards are expected to be in the range of $300,000 to $750,000 total over a period of 3 years. And simply based on those expectations, we estimate 47 to 70 awards being announced from this funding opportunity. All Office of Science funding opportunities beginning this fiscal year are required to include a Promoting Inclusive and Equitable Research Plan, or a PEER plan, with their research proposals. So this is not unique to FAIR. This is across all of our programs, but since it's a new requirement, we're highlighting it here today. These are limited to 3 pages total and should describe the activities, strategies that investigators and the research personnel will incorporate to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the research project. Again, as we look at the variety of awards that we support, from single PI awards up to large team awards. The complexity and detail is expected to increase with the size of the team and the number of personnel. So smaller teams, of course, will be less complex in terms of their peer plan, and larger teams would have more detail. There is a new merit review criterion, again, for all funding opportunities from the Office of Science that include this. And you can find more information, including frequently asked questions and things of that nature, at the link provided at the bottom here. So finally, the FOA is the authoritative source of information for the competition. The direct link, again, to the funding opportunities provided here. We've also posted some frequently asked questions on the FAIR page. You can access that here. And again, if you have more questions after today's webinar, I encourage you to reach out to either sc.fair@science.doe.gov or the program manager listed if you have a specific technical question. And just as to note, that is the end of our presentation, but I mentioned the research programs that we have, and there is further supporting information in the slides online. So with that, I will end.
All right. Thank you, Talia. So with that, we will go to our Q&A portion of our webinar. And before we do that, I want to introduce the panelists that we have today. So we're going to start with Tom. So Tom.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tom Wong, and I'm a program manager with the Advanced Scientific Computing Research Program.
And then Andy.
Hi, everyone. Andy Schwartz from the Office of Basic Energy Sciences.
Boris.
Hi, I'm Boris Warwick. I'm a program manager in biological and environmental research.
All right. And Jeremy.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Love. I'm a program manager in high energy physics.
Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Sharon Stevenson, Program Manager in the Office of Nuclear Physics.
Arn.
Hi, everybody. I'm Arn Freiberger, a Program Manager in the DOE Isotope Program.
Marion.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marianne White, Program Manager in RDAP, the Particle Accelerator R&D and Production Office.
Mike.
Mike Sarkin. I am the Director of the Office of Grants and Contract Support.
Cynthia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cynthia Anderson, Director with the Office of Grants and Cooperative Agreements.
And Tanisha.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tanisha Smith. I'm a Grants Management Specialist in the Office of Grants and Cooperative Agreements.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to get started with a couple questions here. And your questions are also being answered by typing in the chat. So, you might look there also, but we'll start with a couple of questions. Can we include more than one partnering institution on our application? And Tom, would you like to take this?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So teams for FAIR may only involve one partnering institution, but there are no restrictions on unfunded collaborators.
Okay. Mike, this is probably a question for you. Does the list of merit reviewers need to be attached to the application in PAMS, or is it only sent by email to the address in the FOA?
Your list of people who are conflicted from serving as a merit reviewer actually needs to be submitted twice. You're first going to attach it as my apologies, I just got a little bit tongue-tied. You are first going to attach it as or send it at the time of pre-application by email to the address listed in the FOA, which is sc.fair@science.doe.gov. Then, at the time of an application, you are going to attach it to field 12 of the other project information form in your grants.gov application. Ideally, at that point, you are going to attach it not as a printed PDF file, but as the actual Excel file, which makes it then a lot easier for our program managers to take all of the multiple Excel files, in a technical term, smush them together into one mega list of people who shouldn't serve as merit reviewers, to make sure that we don't inadvertently send your application to somebody who's conflicted out.
Thank you. All right. Andy, maybe you can take this. My intended collaborator has a dual affiliation with a national lab and a university. Is that allowed?
Yes, it's allowable. There's lots of people with dual affiliations and certainly allowable. The requirement, however, is that the proposal, in the proposal, the funding should go to the national laboratory. In other words, the funds will be distributed to the national laboratory, and that the research that's proposed to be done by that collaborator will be completed at the national lab. So those are the requirements. But as long as those are met, the person can have a joint appointment with another institution, such as a university.
We have a couple questions about scientific leadership. So can you clarify, maybe Talia, what is meant by clear scientific leadership?
So the research that's being proposed must be led by the PI that is at the lead institution. So, the non-R1 MSI or the PI at the emerging research institution should be building the research program at their institution through a mutually beneficial relationship with the collaborator. So the clear scientific leadership means that person, the research that they're proposing, should be benefiting their research activities rather than, say, tagging on or participating in a research program that is at the collaborator's institution.
All right, thank you. Can we clarify the team member at the single partner? Does that mean that only one individual from the partner can participate?
I can take that one. No, you can have multiple people. It's a single institution, but not a single person.
Okay.
But you are still limited to the 15 to 25% funding at the partner, regardless of
Cloud issues. Does that mean that they can have multiple collaborative partners from a DOE lab? And I see
if they're from the same lab, yes.
Right. And just scrolling through some questions here. Are there any topics any priority topics specified for this call? Any particular one for early career research?
I can take that as well. So the fair funding opportunity is specifically covers the entire Office of Science portfolio. So there are no specific topics that are emphasized over other topics. And of course, this is completely separate from the early career call. So if you are curious about that, there was a webinar, it was recorded, and you can view the webinar on that funding opportunity announcement, but there are no specific emphasis areas. We will welcome applications in all areas that are supported by the Office of Science.
This is a good question. Maybe Tom, you can answer this. Is the acronym for the initiative deliberately fair to align it with the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable FAIR principles? It does not seem to be in the FOA.
No, it's not.
Right. Let's see. Got several people answering questions in the chat. Is there a limit on the number of collaborators from the single partnering institutions? Can I, a PI at a university, have 2 collaborators from the same national lab on the proposal? Can we answer that? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Great. And this is a similar question. Okay. Can a single proposal have multiple PIs at the lead non-R1 institution?
Yeah, this is a similar question. It has the same answer as the collaborating partner question. So the requirement for teaming is a single institution as the lead, and you can have multiple people and a single partner, but you can have single partnering institution, but you can have multiple people at that partner institution. But just again, remember the requirements that these are intended to build relationships between these institutions. and they should have funding to make sure that they are involved in the research. And so if you spread the funding too thin, it may impact the ability to build those relationships.
How many PI can apply from the same department? Oh, yeah.
From the same department. So we look at it at an institutional level. So it's 3 per program office at each institution. So, if you're looking to apply to the Advanced Scientific Computing Research Program, there are 3 people from that singular institution that can apply to OSCAR. So again, you have to work with your Office of Sponsored Research to make sure that you're considering anybody who might be interested in applying to these programs to make sure that you fall within those limitations.
Thank you. This is also probably a question for you, Talia. Will the funds be distributed equally among the different DOE programs, the Office of Science programs?
No, the funds are not equally. So this is directly related to our appropriation, and the funding available per program it's in our budget. So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but you can certainly reference our budget documents to see what we requested for this program across all of our offices.
All right. Can we spend all FAIR funding in the first year for upgrading the infrastructure? Maybe Andy, you could take this one.
So, again, I would read the details in the FOA about what are allowable costs. So I don't want to get into that, but in general, you can propose distribution in your budget that
goes back to some of the differences between Renew and FAIR. So FAIR is really intended to build research programs at institutions underrepresented in STEM. So, I would expect that you will have students involved in these research programs. That is not an emphasis of the program. Renew, the Reaching a New Energy Sciences Workforce, is strongly focused on providing training opportunities for students. So I think that's one of the areas of emphasis that is different between FAIR and Renew. So we are looking specifically at building research programs for principal investigators at these institutions. But of course, I do expect that will involve students, but that is not the focus.
Okay. This is maybe another question for you, Talia. Are interdisciplinary teams supported? Can the PI be from a social science discipline? For instance, I'm a geographer leading a team with biologists, computer scientists, and engineers.
So it does have to fall within the mission space of the Office of Science. So we don't support a lot of social science, but it's not an exclusive. So that's my first response. And then I also, again, we are looking to build these relationships. So these are not large team awards. They're intended to be, ideally a single PI at an institution collaborating with a single PI at another institution. Of course, that's not a limitation. As I mentioned, you can have multiple individuals, but these are not large awards. So in order to ensure that these research programs are adequately supported, you need to make sure that the funding is commensurate with what's being proposed.
Okay. And perhaps this is a question for you, Mike Zarkin. Can the sub-institution be international?
If the international organization is classified as a non-Carnegie R1 minority serving institution between the Carnegie classifications and the U.S. Department of Education's lists, or is classified as an emerging research institution under the terms of the CHIPS and Science Act, then yes, the international organization would be eligible. However, there are no international organizations that are classified as minority serving institutions by the U.S. Department of Education, or that are classified as emerging research institutions under the CHIPS and Science Act. So while theoretically possible, the practical answer is no.
Great, thank you. Had a couple questions about projects that could fit into multiple program areas. Maybe Tom, if you want to try and answer this. If they have something that is both BES and Oscar, how should they apply or handle that?
So the application will have to go to one program, but if you have some questions about which program it might best fit in, it might be good just to email it to sc.fair.
All right, great. Talia, are postdocs allowed in the budget?
Yes, postdocs are allowed.
Right. Is this for new collaborations? Can this support a continuing collaboration between an MSI and a national lab? And Talia, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So that they will all be new awards, certainly, but if you have an established relationship that you would like to build upon, you're certainly welcome to do so. Of course, we can't fund research that is already supported under another research award to another federal agency, but as long as it is distinct and delineated from ongoing efforts, that is certainly allowable.
Okay. Great. Another question maybe for Mike Zarkin. Can a non-R1 HBCU, historically Black serving university, be a lead institution if it's not non-R1?
A non-R1 HBCU is a non-R1 MSI for our purposes. We consider the term minority serving institution to be as broadly inclusive as possible, including the list of historically Black colleges and universities.
And a follow-up, Talia, for the postdoc question, are undergraduate students allowed in the budget?
Yes.
Great. All right. All right, like Renew, will FAIR have separate solicitations for different areas?
I can take that one. So there will only be one funding opportunity announcement for FAIR, and this is it. So if you are interested in applying to FAIR, this is your opportunity.
Okay. All right, so kind of reiterating this, does this FAIR proposal have to present a new research program, or can the research proposed be something already supported by, in total or in part, by DOE, and the proposal for infrastructure for me as the PI? Talia.
So I think my answer is the same as the prior question. So you can certainly build on existing relationships or projects, but the proposal needs to be distinct from anything that's currently supported.
Okay. So if someone already has support and they apply for this, and would it need to be a different subject, or could it be similar to the support that they already have?
So again, this is a question of delineation of research. So you can't be supported by the government for the same work twice. So as long as the work is delineated, it can certainly be informed by other research that is supported. Kind of a new question that you want to ask that's related to what's being, but it has to be separate. It cannot cover the exact same work that you're doing under another award.
Thank you. Another question about cross-cutting subject matter, which I think we've covered. So a clarification on the leadership piece. Are you looking to support work done at a DOE lab or developing infrastructure supporting work done at the lead institution that then connects to a DOE lab, or both or either?
You can take that one again. So the intent for FAIR is to build research infrastructure expertise and programs at the non-R1 MSI or emerging research institution. So there's no expectation that, you know, the work be done at the DOE lab, for example, if that was the collaborating partner. However, we do expect that the collaborating partner, if it's a DOE lab, for example, to be invested and involved in the research. And this is why we require 15 to 25% funding, so that that partner is invested in the research and the outcome in order to help build these research programs. So, you know, the location of where it looks, where it actually happens, like if for example, somebody at a non-R1 MSI wants to send some students to the lab, that's perfectly acceptable. If they want to do the research in their own lab, that's perfectly acceptable. You know, you need to figure out what works best for what you're trying to propose, but there's no expectation that work be done at a particular institution, as long as it is either the lead or the partner.
Great. And maybe Andy, you can take this. Can we share our intention to submit a proposal with the program officer even before pre-application deadline? We'd like to know if there's any interest in it.
So you can share the intention, but because we are evaluating pre-applications in comparison to all that we receive, the program managers are somewhat limited. They can't provide information on the quality of your pre-application at that time prior to the pre-application deadline.
Thank you. Can a researcher from an MSI be on more than one DOE application, example, BER and NP? Who wants to take this?
I will. So there is a limitation of one application per PI. So it's not one application per PI per program. So if you are an individual who would like to apply, you can only submit one pre-application or application.
Okay. Can one apply for funding with a PI at a different DOE National Lab while employed at another DOE lab? I'm not sure. Talia, do you want to take that?
I guess perhaps this is a situation where they are moving. I'm not sure. I mean, the requirement is for the partner to be at one of the three institutions or one of the three categories, right? So either a DOE National Lab, an Office of Science User Facility, or an R1 minority serving institution. So as long as that requirement is met, you can submit an application.
Thank you. Okay. Talia, you were talking about joint faculty positions. Joint faculty positions between national labs and MSIs can play important roles in both education and research. How can such positions fit into the context of Renew and FAIR?
Yeah, so I certainly agree that there is a great role for joint faculty positions in promoting those. I think that in this particular case, this isn't something that we've called out as a goal for these funding opportunities. I think, please, stay tuned to see if there's other opportunities that might fit as well. I think in this case, we are looking to build partnerships between the two institutions rather than a single person that would serve in a joint role through a joint affiliation.
Thank you. And this is another reiteration of the criteria. So Mike Zarkin, if you want to take this, are non-R1 institutions eligible to apply even if they are not designated as a minority serving institution?
No, unless They are also designated as an emerging research institution. To lead a FAIR application, you must be either non-R1 MSI or emerging research institution.
All right, thank you. All right. How can we plan and devise this grant to be as inclusive as possible? How should we approach this issue in the grant? Is career development an important aspect of the grant? And if we want to give one of our panelists that haven't had a chance to talk, Marion, do you want to take a stab at that? Inclusivity.
I would say that career development is important, but the focus is still to build research and infrastructure capability at the minority serving institution. Someone else may have a better answer.
Anyone else want to jump in? Okay. In the allowable costs, I don't see infrastructure, but only equipment. Could you please clarify what infrastructure means in this FOA? We were expecting some costs for building renovation, clean room facility upgrades. Talia, do you want to take that?
I don't know if I have a firm answer to that. I don't know if our contracting folks might be able to address that.
Yeah. Hi, this is Cynthia. Typically, infrastructure usually includes like utilities, roads, that type of thing. But getting to the question about renovation costs are typically allowable under grants and cooperative agreements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about outreach and recruitment. Is that allowable in this project for, say, reaching out to local area communities, increasing awareness in the underserved communities in science, or undergraduate, graduate recruitment at the leading institution? Is that something that is allowable in this project? Sharon, do you want to take a stab at that?
You'll have to repeat it. I'm sorry, I was answering the question in the chat.
Yes, that's totally fine. Is outreach recruitment available, allowable in this project for, undergraduate, graduate recruitment, or to underserved communities? Is that appropriate?
I would say in some ways, whoever's asking the question might also look at the Renew FOA, just because that is more targeted towards this. With that said, if such efforts are necessary for the project as described, then they have to make the case. Let's see what others say too. There's heads nodding.
I'll just add that we don't have a, find the right words, unlike the National Science Foundation, we don't kind of have this broader impacts or education focus. So as long as it is tied to the research that is being proposed, that would be appropriate. But just general outreach, for example, is not something that the DOE generally supports, like outreach to high schools, for example, to talk about science. That's not something that we would generally support.
Okay. And Talia, a clarification on the requirement that this needs to be distinct from currently supported efforts. Let's say we are receiving project funding to support a detector construction effort. Would a FAIR proposal requesting funds for students, faculty, travel be allowed? And if allowed, would it perhaps not review well? I don't know if you can answer that part.
I think in this case, I would suggest that you reach out to the technical point of contact that is related to the work that you're describing.
Thank you. Um, all right, and again, just to clarify this, does FAIR focus on the research or building infrastructure for research? For example, if DOE expects the application targeting research problems or extending the research capabilities, such as programs for training the students at the MSI institution.
I'll take that one. So again, the focus is on the research of the investigators who are applying for the awards. So the way that I heard what was described, if you're trying to build a program for students to be able to do research, that sounds more like Renew. If you're trying to build a research program for an investigator who, you know, has an area of inquiry that he or she wants to pursue, then that would be appropriate for FAIR.
Okay. And there is a request here for our panelists. Could you introduce and elaborate each of your research program themes so we can better understand our research idea fit, especially for some cross-discipline? Are we, oh, hold on, just moving. Are we, oh, and then the second question is, do we necessarily have to leverage a user facility? So maybe we'll take the user facility question first.
I'll go ahead and answer this. So there are 3 partner possibilities. User facility is one of them. The other 2 are DOE National Laboratory or an R1 minority serving institution. In terms of everyone on the call, I think we would end up using all of our time if we went through all 8 programs. But if you're late joining, I referenced on the Office of Science homepage, science.ofsty.gov, under special announcements, there's a webinar that we recorded in December that went through a brief presentation from all 8 Office of Science programs. And so I encourage you to look, review the slides and the webinar recording from that informational webinar to get an overview of the Office of Science.
Thank you. And Jeremy, maybe you can answer this for us. Do you have any advice for faculty at an ERI who have never worked with DOE partners before? Where should they start?
So I would direct you to the points of contact list that Talia mentioned earlier, and start by working with maybe the ones that are closest geographically to your institution, or at least have overlapping interest in your research topics, and get in touch with them. And if you have any questions, reach out to the program managers who are listed in the FOA, and they may be also able to direct you to individuals who could work with you.
All right, thank you. This question again might be for Mike Zarkin. The FOA states that emerging research institutions are eligible as leads. However, is that true if the emerging research institution is not also an MSI?
Yes, that is very much the case. Emerging research institutions are eligible to lead. So are non-R1 minority serving institutions. There is no requirement that an ERI also be a non-R1 minority serving institution. And again, my thanks to those in the chat who corrected my preconception that there are in fact 24 emerging research institutions that are Carnegie R1. I had absolutely no idea, and mea culpa, I will hang my head in shame.
All right. Okay. Marion, maybe you'd like to take this. In the FAIR application, should we emphasize primarily the scientific content, as with any other application, with the discussion of broader impacts limited to the 3-page peer plan, or should we make the case about broader impacts throughout?
I would say that you should make the point what is your research? What is your plan? How is that research going to enable you to develop a partnership, for example, with your partner? I think as Talia said, DOE does not really talk about the broader impacts in the same way that NSF does.
Okay. Does FAIR have plans in the future to support R1 MSI as leading institutions? I don't think we could probably answer this at this point, but.
No, we can't speak to it. We can only talk to the funding opportunity that we've presented today.
Let's scroll back up to some of these. Okay. Arn, maybe you can take this. Are multi-institutional teams allowed, like one lead MSI, one or two sub-awardee MSIs, and a partner lab?
I'll hopefully Mike will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is allowed. It's one lead institution, one partner lab or R1 MSI, but I believe there can be other collaborators on the proposal.
Well, no, the intention is to have a single lead institution and a single partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you have sub-awardees?
Can there be sub-awardees that are collaborators but not funded?
That is not the intention for the FOA.
That's not the intention. Okay, thank you.
Great. That's helpful. All right. We've got people answering questions. So this is the same kind of question. Can a leading ERI institution subcontract with different collaborating ERI? And Talia, that is not in the spirit.
Again, yeah, I want to just reiterate that these are not large awards. These are not, awards that are going to support a lot of principal investigators at multiple institutions. So by having many collaborators, the individual funding for each person is going to be quite small. So these are truly intended to support a single PI, or there could be instances where there might be two people at an institution collaborating with a single institution that is either the DOE lab, Office of Science User Facility, or R1 MSI. So the model is set up to really try to bring together small teams that can build those relationships and have invested efforts to grow that research program.
All right. And then for someone at the National Lab, is there any scheduled events to introduce our labs to potential lead applicants who may not be familiar with their capabilities, or can they organize such an event if they are interested in that at the labs?
Certainly the labs are welcome to organize such an event. We have not formally set any of those up, but if there are any that would like to, we would be certainly willing to help get the word out as well.
Can we include a letter of collaboration or support? Tom, you're nodding.
Yes, and you should. So if you look at the FOA, it actually says what that letter should say.
Great.
Yeah, so this is specifically for the collaborator. We want to make sure that the collaborator has clearly committed to the research being proposed. Letters of support are not allowed. So the letter of collaboration specifically, and there is a format specific in the FOA that's detailed on that.
Okay. who does not look like they're typing. Andy, maybe you can answer this. Can an institution collaborate with someone at a national lab to work at a user facility? The lab or the user facility would not be a sub-awardee necessarily for that, correct?
So as Talia said, that there's the requirement to have a partner. The partner can be at a national lab or at a university or at a user facility or at an R1 MSI. So yes, it's required. I guess the question might be, in addition to that, can they have an unfunded collaborator? I guess I'm not entirely understanding the question, but if that's the question, then the user facilities broadly are open access. So regardless of your partner, you can certainly take advantage of broadly the user facilities across the DOE complex as part of your research. And in fact, we would encourage you to, if it makes sense. Those are open access, free for non-proprietary research facilities. So for the user facility part, absolutely, taking advantage beyond just your partnership, other facilities is certainly encouraged and allowed.
And I'll add, if you intend to use a user facility, that doesn't mean that that is your collaborator. You know, if you're just going through the normal proposal access process for a user facility, you can do that regardless of who you're collaborating with. That wouldn't be considered your collaborator.
All right. And Talia, maybe you want to wrap us up with talking again about the differences between renew and fair, so that we can capture that for the audience.
Sure. So for FAIR, again, we're looking to build research programs at institutions that have been underrepresented in STEM, and we've targeted non-R1 MSIs and emerging research institutions as the leads to build the research at those institutions that are led by faculty, principal investigators, to grow their individual research programs through a mutually beneficial relationship with a partner. So again, the focus is building the research program of the faculty member, of the applicant at those institutions. Renew, reaching a new energy sciences workforce. For your reference, those awards were announced last month, and stay tuned regarding what we're going to be doing in 2023 for those for this program. But you can see the types of awards that we made. Those are focused on training. So these are traineeships for students to get them ready for careers in STEM. So again, the focus for Renew is truly on students, and the focus on FAIR is research programs for faculty, by faculty.
All right, thank you. And that pretty much wraps up our questions. Like Talia said, the contact information is available in the FOA, and we encourage you to look there for more information. I am going to drop in the chat if you'd like to subscribe to our email list to receive more information about Office of Science. Please sign up for our Gov Delivery emails. Yeah, any last words, Talia?
No, we encourage you to apply. Again, we're trying to bring new people into Office of Science funded activities, and we look forward to receiving your applications.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great weekend.